Turespaña in 1998, Spain was receiving about 40 million tourists. Now we are already at 85, and this year we are likely to exceed 90 million. So that means during my career, we have added about 50 million tourists. And my career is not over yet. So that means we are in a super high-speed growth at the moment. And there are a lot of questions, and I think we're starting a very healthy debate on how to make the industry more sustainable. And this is what we're going to discuss today. Okay, I'm going to start by introducing the panel. And to my left, José Juan Lorenzo. He's the managing director of tourism of Canary Islands since September 2020. José Juan is an industrial engineer specialized in industrial organization with specific training in smart tourism, data science, and digital transformation. His technical background has allowed him to lead significant projects across various sectors, such as industrial, technological, waste management, and in particular tourism, both in private and public domains. Throughout his more than 30 years professional career, he has spearheaded development of initiatives in artificial intelligence, smart cities, and different platform business models and ecosystems on climate change and energy efficiency. As I said, he's now heading tourism for the Canary Islands, and as such, he's been a very important part of this conversation and debate about the limits of tourism in the Canary Islands. We'll talk about that later. Welcome, José Juan. To his left, we have Dr. Rachel Dodds, that comes all the way from Canada, no less, I understand. And Dr. Rachel Dodds is known globally for her work trying to make the tourism industry more sustainable, and he's passionate about change. She's a professor at Toronto Metropolitan University and has published and spoken globally about the topics of over-tourism, sustainable tourism, and consumer behavior for over 20 years. Rachel is not only an academic, she consults to business and governments globally as the director of a consultancy firm, Sustaining Tourism, and a data company called Clever Place, and is also involved in policy work. Rachel was appointed to the Canadian Advisory Council to help create Canada's federal tourism strategy in 2018, and currently sits on Destinations Canada Research Advisory Council, as well as their Events Sustainable Committee. She has also co-authored a book about sustainable travel with children that has been a top 10 Best Family Gift Awards by USA Today for 2 years running. So Rachel obviously is in a fantastic position coming from academia, private sector, and public policy to talk about this. Rachel, welcome. Dr. Luigi Cabrini. Luigi Cabrini is the chairman of the board of directors of the Global Sustainable Tourism Council since 2014. He led several initiatives on sustainable tourism and global travel, focusing his activities on tourism and climate change, biodiversity, green economy, heritage, and global partnerships. He was the director of the United Nations WTO, World Tourism Organization, Sustainable Tourism Program, Director for Europe, and Secretary of the General Assembly and Executive Council. He also worked in the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, representative in Poland and Spain, and he speaks many languages, Italian, English, French, perfect Spanish, and some Russian and Polish. That won't be necessary today, but Luigi, thank you very much for joining us. And last but not least, Mr. Christoph Kiessling. Mr. Christoph Kiessling joined the family business, the Loro Parque, no introduction needed, in 1995. During his time there, he has held various positions in sales, marketing, and business development. Currently, he's the president of the Loro Parque Foundation, which allocates 1.5 million euros annually towards biodiversity conservation efforts. He also holds the role of vice president of Loro Parque Group and general manager of Siam Park Water Park and Poema del Mar Aquarium in Gran Canaria. Christoph is passionate about animals, staunch advocate for nature, and spearheads the Loro Parque Group's efforts in promoting sustainability and the crucial role of conservation centers in combating the 6 mass extinction. Welcome, Christoph. So, without further ado, let's dive in. José Juan, you are now heading the Canary Islands Tourism Board. The Canary Islands has been, since always, at the forefront of tourism development in Spain. You got 7 islands with different development models. And we have recently witnessed public demonstrations asking the government to pivot to a new tourism model here in the Canary Islands. And we seem to be at a turning point. What is your reading of the current situation? What is happening? And second question, what is your approach to sustainability as a public destination marketing office?
Thank you, Enrique. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the Tenerife Global Summit for the invitation to be here. We are really glad to share our vision and especially to learn everything that we can learn this morning and today. The tourism industry in Canary Island has experienced a very significant growth in the last years, which has led to the recent public demonstration advocating for a transition toward a more sustainable tourist model, one that set limits on visitor growth, better distribution of the wealth, and offer greater environment protection. The Minister of Tourism and Employment shared this need to improve the tourist model. And indeed, the shift toward a new tourist model was already underway, with 2 clear areas of progress. First, the reform of all outdated tourist legislation that no longer meets the need of 21st century Canary Islands. Thus, in less than a year of the current government, we are progressing with the processing of the first law of sustainability regulation of tourist use of housing, on the modification or the modification of the decree of the active tourism. The second area of focus is the tourist strategy. In 2021, the Canary Island Destination Strategy 2022-2024 was launched. This new strategy established a new purpose for tourists in the Canary Islands. This proposal aims to address the new cycle once recovery for COVID-19, which is determined by a new social consideration of the impact of tourism on the territory, the economy, the environment, and the society in which it develops, from the perspective from both resident and tourists. In this scenario, Canary Island tourists assume the challenge of driving the transformation of the Canary Island tourist model from a triple perspective, combining the creation of value and well-being for citizens, commitment to the climate neutrality, resilience, and competitiveness. In the development of this strategy, tourist promotion does not seek an increase in number of visitors, but attraction of high-value demand segment, which enhance a sand and beach offering and diversify it toward segments such as premium tourism, nature tourism, active tourism, sport training, professional sport training, heritage, and cultural tourism. In the environment field, this strategy allows us to be one of the international leading destinations in climate action under the umbrella of Glasgow Declaration. With the execution of the Climate Action Plan, October 2022, a plan that today already has in production a digital platform that enables Canary Island tourist companies to measure their carbon footprint and create their own emission reduction plan. In parallel, we are advancing with environment awareness campaign aimed at the citizen and visitor. In terms of competitiveness and innovation, we advance with the implementation of the Canary Island Digitalization Plan, January 2021, which has already deployed a unique space for Canary Island tourist data and research portal. The portals from La Gomera, Fuerteventura, and soon La Palma has been integrated into Canary Island portal, as well as a project of accelerating the digitalization of Canary Island tourist experience companies by providing them with booking engine, payment gateways, and access to major OTAs specialized in tourist experience. In summary, the transformation of the Canary Island tourist model is underway and has reached the first milestone, such as attracting more diversified and higher value demand, achieving collective commitment to decarbonization of our economy, and digital convergence that make us more competitive.
Thank you, José Juan. So, as we heard, Canary Islands is in the middle of a strategic pivot. They're thinking of or working on a new strategic plan, and I can tell you all that this is happening all across Spain. It's happening at Spain Tourism Board as well. The national government is also thinking what is the new model that we want for the next 10, 15 years that is more sustainable and that is focused on high-value tourists. Rachel. Second. You work both in academia and industry and have been focusing on sustainability for many, many years. What are, in your opinion, the 2-3 key things that are limiting sustainable tourism worldwide and Spain-wide?
Primeramente, gracias para todos y especialmente Eduardo por esta invitación. Me encanta España y también aquí, entonces gracias. Now I'll speak in English. I think there's, as Tom had said, I like to focus. I don't think there's any problems. I disagree. I think there's lots of problems. It's really easy to focus on the problems, but I think we need to start focusing on solutions to these problems. One key thing which is happening globally, and congratulations to Spain because Secatur has done a very good job of setting things up, but we have an issue with data. We like to come up with frameworks, indicators. We have millions of indicators to assess the problems, but nobody collects the data. If they do collect the data, it's not consistent. So it's why we keep referring to the number of arrivals, which we heard this morning. Everybody can find out how many people get off a plane, but consistently we cannot determine the tons of waste anywhere. And if you do, it's different to the municipality next to you, let alone the country next to you, let alone the continent next to you. So that is the biggest issue. We need to stop focusing on coming up with more frameworks, and we need to start actually collecting data. and sharing data on sustainability, not just arrivals or number of jobs. Sorry, Tom. Second is critical mass. We're all talking to the converted. Everybody here is interested in sustainability. We need to stop talking to the converted and stop talking about the need for higher yield, 5-star sustainable tourists, because with those come everyone else. You can't just focus and market to one segment without affecting everyone else. And so we need to stop saying that we want more people to go into nature, we want more eco-tourists. I like to hike, I don't want any more people on my trails. No, we need to start focusing on making all-inclusives more sustainable. Focusing on mass, the big hotel chains that have actually perpetuated the traditional model, sorry, but most of them are Spanish, around the world, they need to become more sustainable. That's where we need mass. The majority of people are still going to cruise and go to all-inclusives. Those are the sectors we need to focus on. And I think we need to change the narrative. Organic food has done a very good job. Sustainable tourism and climate change is very negative, right? We just smoke and drink more because we don't want to hear about it. We need to start making it more appealing. And that's where we need to accomplish this change through human behavior. We talk about all these things we need to do, but we forget we're all human. And we are lazy. And we all have big egos. And so unless it's convenient for us, we're not going to change. So the focus on behavioral science to make small incremental changes to get people to change their behavior is the only way we're going to see mass changes. To move from 0 to 100 is not possible. We need to move by 1% at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I love the make it convenient if you want to have it sustainable. Luigi, GSTC is a non-profit organization that establishes and manages global sustainability standards in the travel and tourism sector. It seems to me that one of the main problems we face is that we lack a common definition of sustainability in the travel industry. We also lack common sustainability standards, and Rachel just mentioned data as a key milestone or a key founding stone of any sustainable transition. Could you please tell us about the work GSTC is developing in this area?
Yes, thank you, Enrique. First of all, I say, please, I'm in this panel because I'm now related to all the panelists here. Turespaña joined us as a member 3 years ago, a very important and relevant member for us. Juan José was in Lanzarote when you first applied the GSTC criteria for destinations. Rachel is one of the key speakers in many of our conferences, and I had the honor to receive the Gorilla Prize from Loro Parque Foundation a few years ago, so kind of I feel a bit of a home here. So, well, let me see. No, we back in 2007, with the support of UN agencies, UN Foundation, UNWTO, United Nations Environmental Programme, we looked at all existing literature about standards indicators, and we tried to condensate all that literature, all that information in a set of criteria or standards that could be used by different sectors of tourism. And we started working with what we thought was the more important elements in tourism, hotels and tour operators. So in 2008, we launched the first of these criteria. Then we evolved into criteria for destinations. Last year, we issued the MICE criteria. We're working on attractions now. So what was the idea? Was to have a set of do's and don'ts. There are in fact 42, divided into 4 traditional pillars of sustainability, management, environment, and socioeconomic and cultural. That could be, on the one hand, a reference to anyone that wants to increase the level of sustainability of his own company, of his own destinations, but at the same time serve as a reference for what we believe is a bit our most important program, which is to increase the efficiency and the scope of certifications in tourism, We noted back then that there were and there still are about 200 tourist certifications, and yet the percentage of products certified in tourism is much smaller than many other sectors when they have much fewer certifiers. So what we try to do is to create a common reference for all of them and created a program we call the Assurance Program, whereby those that voluntarily approach us can get at the first level their standards recognized. That means that the wording of what they say is compatible with the globality of the standards that we defined. And then secondly, the higher level of being accredited, so that not only the standards but the procedures to certify, to audit, etc., are in line with the best standards. And why we do that and why they have an interest in approaching us, because our aim is at the end to create a much better market access for sustainable products. Booking.com is one of our members. We're working with them to make sure that those hotels, those destinations that are certified by a GSTC accredited program get on the first line when someone make a search on the web. And so we do believe that will actually help in increasing the level of sustainability. In fact, Booking.com itself made a survey years ago, and that survey showed that many tourists, many travelers would like to travel sustainable, but they don't find easily where to. So my conclusion was that in fact there is a bit of a more demand than offer of sustainable tourism, and therefore I think that the tools that we're providing could be helpful for that. Last, and then I finish, I think our membership is really very, very diverse, because on the one hand we have big companies. I mentioned Booking.com, TUI, Airbnb, Sheraton, Barcelona in Spain. Over 30 governments joined GSTC because they find the framework, and I think that answered a bit your questions. It's not only for the private sector, but many governments found the relatively concise set of standards as a good guide for strategic plan at national and regional level. And I think that mix, I think it's a bit of strength for us, because on the one hand it means that the big giants are really interested in improving their sustainability level, and that also the public sector is somehow supportive of this scheme. Maybe then later we'll talk about more.
Thank you, Luigi. Hugely important, the work you're doing on defining common standards for the industry. Christoph, Loro Parque has always been a pioneering tourism attraction that has grown and evolved over the years, from exotic animals to theme parks and everything in between. What has been your approach, the approach of your company to sustainability throughout the years, and how do you see the future of the holding, the company, evolving along this sustainable theme?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for letting me share our opinion about this. When my father came to the Canary Islands and we started Loro Park, which was a parrot park in these days, the climber and the location for tourism in the north of Tenerife as the hotspot for tourism, where everybody was building hotels, and my father thought, well, if everybody builds hotels, we should do something as a complementary offer. So he starts with the parrots. And a couple of years later, the mayor of the town called my father because they took away the chimpanzees which street photographers used to put them on tourists to make pictures of them. And they got confiscated, and the mayor called my father saying, can you help me with these chimps? And my father obviously helped, and this was the moment of diversification within the zoo. So from there on, we grew to have about 500 different species at the zoo, and we are like the marine mammal park known for dolphin and orcas as well. Well, the thing is, when we started as the zoo working, so different organizations around the world approached us and said, well, you have parrots or you have dolphins, we need your help to investigate. And when we visit the projects, we actually found out that the sustainability where the project and the real habitat was happening, that there was a lack of knowledge what is sustainability in the origin, in situ, where the animals come from. So from there on, we thought about how can we help in situ, where the animals are, and how can we improve, which is our daily work at the park. So we explored all possibilities to be more sustainable. First of all was renewable energies, then it's plastic-free, then it's doing compost, having a desalination unit, having a depuration unit so that we use our dirt water for the irrigation of the plants. We clean it and we have a closed circle. We don't need water from the island. We have our independency with this. And when you start working on the sustainability of your operation, then you get the certifications. If it's ISO 9001, 14001, EMAS, we were the first biosphere park and hotel with the Hotel Botanico. And nowadays we have more than 20 megawatt of renewable energy. That means we produce for us and for our surrounding. All of this drove us to have, which is a sustainable concept throughout the whole company. And what we do is we try to showcase how easy it is to be sustainable if you make the decision and you don't ask, for example, your clients if they want to have kilometer zero food or not. You decide for your clients and you apply the price, which is the price for the food. So we have contracts with local agricultures so that we get all our products, most from our products, straight from the island. And like this we can offer, which is a kilometer zero kitchen for our animals and for our clients. We had over 3 million visitors last year, and take in consideration that with this amount of visitors we are actually sustainable, and our footprint, carbon footprint, is 10.39 grams per visitor. So we are working, we continue to work, we try to get merchandise locally, nationally, so that we don't depend on transportation from the Far East. So everything is to work on to get your footprint reduced and neutralized. And I believe this is what all of us can do. We just try to understand from where comes the product and how we can reduce it.
Thank you, Christoph. That is a very impressive figure, 10 grams per visitor. Seems like a negligible amount. Now, let's dig into this. We mentioned before, one of the main problems I find we have when discussing sustainability is we lack a common definition of what it is sustainability in travel. I'm sure we ask 5 people in the room and we'll get 6 different opinions. Sustainability, as we all know, is holistic. It's environmental, but it's also social, it's economic. I have my own definition, but I'll keep it for later. I want to hear yours. How do you make an inherently environmentally unfriendly activity, such as traveling, sustainable, and how do we get there? What's the definition of success of a sustainable travel industry? That's a difficult one, guys, but you'll be up to the start.
No, I think that we have a common understanding, but a sustainable tourism destination is one that creates value for value and well-being for the present and future community. A sustainable destination not only aims to reduce environment damage caused by tourists, but also actively inspire the private sector, the companies, the entities, the public entities and society to invest in effort to protect nature and restore biodiversity. A sustainable tourist destination is more inclusive, better distribute wealth, and contribute to the well-being of the city. In Canary Islands, and just in medium terms, success for us in a main And the main indicator will be, just thinking in 2030, basic thing, but so important for society. First, reduce our current unemployment rate. In Canary Islands, is 14% right now. As much as possible below 10%, just to share a number, no? For reference, tourist employment, direct or indirect, has grown 10.6% since 2019 to reach 344,000 employees in 2022. Second, achieve per capita income about Spanish average. We are on the one of the leading tourist destinations in Spain, but we still have an income below the average for Spain. We can reach this level thanks to the tourist activity, thanks to the sustainability of tourism. Third, met the objective of the Glasgow Declaration. For us, is a key point, which means reducing greenhouse emission by 50% on 2030, and being on track to achieve net zero until 2050. And lastly, and most close objectives for us is just on 2026, all the activities, tourist activities that we publish or we list in our hellocanarysisland.com will inform about our carbon footprint. This is how we, in the short term, we understand that we can move forward.
Thank you, José Juan. Rachel, over to you.
Sorry.
Thank you. I think we've just noticed from all our speakers this morning that everybody has very interesting, that we all have a different definition of sustainability, right? Some of us have talked about environmental sustainability, someone was talking about cultural sustainability. We're never going to be sustainable, right? The tourism industry cannot be sustainable. It's not a checklist, it's a process. We can all be more sustainable, but this checklist and this idea that sustainability is this mountain that we're going to climb and get to the top and put a flag in it is the problem with human behavior. We need to change our metrics of success. It's not about the definition, it's about what do we define as success. Right now, success is based on the number of arrivals. That's not success, as we've all seen in the media. Residents don't like it, and rightly so. Success and sustainability needs to come from equity, right? Equality, conservation, all these things that we all want, but we need to start changing the metrics. We don't want checklists. It's not a question of doing it and moving on, and all tourism needs to change. We can't just have this ideal element over in the corner somewhere that's sustainable and then everyone just goes business as usual, because that's exactly what governments are doing. You know, there's amazing things going on in the Canary Islands, but you'll never be carbon neutral because people have to fly to get here, right? It's not going to happen unless you stop having tourism. And that's not an option because it's such a huge part of the GDP. So for me, it's not about whether or not we're defining it, it's about how we're going to achieve it and start moving those small denominators to change people's behaviors rather than everyone buying into the next word, which is regenerative. And I mean, I'm only 21, but I remember when it was eco and slow and green and responsible. We'll have another one next year. So we need to stop talking about the definition and start talking about action.
Thank you. Luigi.
Yes, I think in the same line, we always like to define sustainability as a journey. I mean, you don't have a final price. In fact, the way that we word our criteria are mostly maximize benefits and reduce negative effects. And I think this is really the approach that we need to have for sustainability. And also, it seems obvious, but sometimes people tend to forget that there are different concepts of sustainability depending on the tourist segment you're addressing. Sustainability, you cannot address sustainability only in niche tourism. I mean, sustainability is not being an ecotourism lodge. Sustainability, you have to address the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of tourists traveling every year. So applying the different standards and different parameters according to where we are. Now, we got new labels, the regenerative tourism, the nature positive tourism, etc. I don't know. I can understand that because obviously the word sustainability, it is a bit obsolete. We had a session in our last conference that called talking about sustainability without talking about sustainability. That means you have to transmit and convey what is a positive about the customers, about the traveler, because this is basically the only way we can promote it. I mean, going in a sustainable hotel should not be a sacrifice, should be an enjoyment. You should have a better quality experience, not having cold because you're told that you are saving on heating or in air conditioning. So there is an issue, first, of getting this, hopefully a slow improvement, and at the same time change a bit the narrative about what sustainability is, and be able, to communicate it rightly.
Thank you, Luigi. Christoph, how do we define sustainability? What does success look like, and how do we get there?
Well, first of all, we have to bear in mind that our world population is growing continuously. So this year we will approach the number of 8,200,000,000 inhabitants on the planet. So all of these people, they live on the 30% of land space there is. And we have one thing in common. With our wealth, with our development, with our evolution, we want to know new places, we want to travel. So people want to have vacations. So tourism is the freedom for decision what to do with your free time. And we should not restrict it. We should help them to be more sustainable. So I believe that the industry, if it's airplane industry, cars, or whatever transportation mode, they are looking for alternatives for the fuel. So we get synthetic fuel, biofuel. So we hope that in the future, the carbon footprint for traveling will not be as contaminating as today. So sustainability is an evolution which grows together with the demand. And tourism hotspots, they learn how to be more sustainable. Like we can show some people or some other parks or hotels what we have done, and they can learn, and everybody will develop, which is higher sustainability. I believe that we have to look at the touristic destinations. We have to talk to the responsible politicians so that we apply, which is sustainability, as a law, as a demand. There is no alternative than to work sustainable. If we achieve this, we would have the possibility to live, travel with sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. We're mindful of the time, so we will like to open the floor for questions from the audience. Please specify if your question is aimed at panelists or the whole panel. I think we can take a couple of questions. Anybody?
This is really just a thought for all of you. I'm particularly interested in the informal economy and the micro businesses that exist in tourism and the destinations we all visit. And that generally within the formalized initiatives around sustainability seems to be an area that we literally brush under the carpet. Is there any way of engaging being more inclusive in engagement in terms of sustainability, so that it becomes part of a community, a social mindset within destinations, rather than being the responsibility or seen to be the responsibility of the large players?
Well, we have a program that we call Destination Assessment, which is basically for those destinations that wish to somehow start a journey towards sustainability and maybe far away, and actually our experts look at how the situation of the destination matches with the criteria that were elaborated. And I think that process always starts with putting together a group of stakeholders, and we always try to include not only the local governments or the big tour operators or the big hotel owners, but also to include, I would say, the smaller, maybe forgotten group of people working in tourism that sometimes they have little representations or little force in the decision making. And honestly, we found that as larger as this group was, and I think in a way the better the success of the projects in evaluating together where were the deficiencies, the strong point, the weak points, and setting a roadmap. So in our, say, little experience, we found that process has been helpful in including people or groups that otherwise will not be included.
I think it's a good point. As I look around, and everyone here pretty much is white and over the age of, well, I'm not going to say. I think I worked on a project with the Travel Foundation actually in school, in my classes last semester, and it was my students who came up with the ideas, but they said, how do we be more inclusive to everyone to make sure that a voice is heard? And I made my students solve the problem. And my students, of course, are a little bit younger than me, and from a majority of diverse backgrounds. I think in my class we had 17 different nationalities, 8 different skin colors, if that's even possible, and said, how would you solve the problem? And I think what really came to me is that maybe we need to start asking different people to solve the problems, because we keep asking ourselves and we're not getting anywhere. Our young people, our diverse, our immigrants, our newcomers to our countries have really good ideas, but they're left out of the conversations in traditional consulting, in traditional government approaches, and even in traditional academic approaches. And so we can all, are we asking our neighbor what they think?
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience over there?
Well, thank you very much in the first place. I have a question for Dr. Rachel Dodds. I wanted to link or ask a question that links two things you said. One is about redefining success. So success is not tourist numbers. And then the other one you said that, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we want to make a change, we should address the big players. So my question is, what are the arguments for redefining success when you talk to these big players in the industry that in the first place got that big because of that definition they had of success?
It's a good question. You should be up here, not me. I mean that we talk a lot of focus, even when we had our director from the UN Tourism Association here. She was talking about running something for social enterprise, right? We immediately switched that it should just be the small and medium-sized enterprises, or we should go after the 5-star sustainable value-added tourist. I mean, we need to start focusing on the masses with our big issues. But in terms of redefining our success, we can't keep focusing on volume. We have to focus on value. And the big players, they know, right? If you change, when Accor hotels changed their supply chain, that one decision trickled down, and every single supplier to Accor changed their practices to be more responsible within a 2-month time frame, right? That level of change that happened by one big player changing to become more responsible shifted the entire supply. That's what I mean by focusing on big. If we keep focusing on, the Ecological in Guatemala, no, right? That carbon footprint to get there alone is never going to make it sustainable. So there needs to be a balance, but we need to be more inclusive. But if the big players and the all-inclusives and the cruise ships are not at the table, which they're not at the moment, it doesn't matter what the SMEs in the world are doing, because that's not critical mass. I'm no offense, I'm sorry, Luigi, but less than 1% of tourism businesses are certified. But we spend the majority of the time talking about certification. Maybe we need to change our metrics of success. Please, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you share the same analysis, but this is why we should increase them, because we believe that certification, and especially if it is certified by third parties, is the only way that you're not greenwashing. And I think this is essential for the credibility of having sustainability on the table. But to answer your question, definitely, and we have one of our members, TUI, that has got now over 90% of their hotels certified by GSTC program. But not only that, we apply the principle of preferred contracting. That means that they only contract those companies that are applying sustainability criteria. So I think this is definitely key. And as I mentioned, we are a small organization and we're big giants joining, so I say definitely is not to have GSTC on the visit card. They just don't need that. So it means, I think, that there is a genuine interest. I think there is the understanding, I think the acceptance of the fact that for a company that wants to be in business in the next 15, 20, 25 years, unless the whole environment, improves or stop deteriorating, it's going to be difficult. We are seeing many examples now, even here in the Canary Islands. So I think it's definitely a need that is there and that is recognized. I would like that we could do more. I mean, Royal Caribbean also, they are only using now tour operators who are certified by GSTC program. I mean, there are a lot of other problems with cruising companies, but I think it's a small step, because, tour operations in certain destinations are really affecting, the local resident, etc. So we try to improve on that, But obviously, I think it is a chain. I mean, you need to have the big companies, you need to have the pressure from the public, and you need to have the engagement of the politicians. I think these are the three elements which I think are essential if you really want to progress steadily.
One more question there.
Thank you, all the panelists. It's really interesting meeting we are talking now. Luz Marina, Port of Tenerife. I want to know the point of view about the measure and the sustainability program that cruises implemented right now.
Could you repeat the question?
About Tenerife?
One of point of view, Port of Tenerife, one of point of view now talking about cruises. Why is your point of view that the measure or the project that we now implementing in our cruises, that they came to our island? We have so many big company that...
I don't have an answer specific for cruising line. What we are doing in Canary Island as a government of the whole island and in tourism is just, first of all, the thing when you approach to climate action plan, you have to know where you are, of course, and you have to measure. So we, in 2019, we estimate the carbon footprint for the whole estimate. We make an estimation. Estimation is better than nothing. It's the first step. We make an estimation of the whole activity, including air connectivity, of course, including cruising line. The point is that we don't have data. No, this is the point. So, for example, it's not the case where if you ask to me or to us about air connectivity, I will give you the answer right now, because we have all the operation, we have all the plane, we have all the engine, so we know the factor of emission, and we know that in Canary Island, flying, going and back to Canary Island are about 5 this year. The year 2022 was 5.4 million tons of CO2 equivalent. With the cruiser, we are the entity who has more data are the port authorities. No? Here in Santa Cruz, for example, we have the ship in the middle of the city, even in Gran Canaria. They have a big emission there. They are working to electrify the harbor, and they are making big investment. So I didn't have an answer, as I said before. We know what are the numbers. We estimate. In 2022, we make a better estimation. In 2023, we will make a better estimation. We are on the state that to understand the problem, to understand where are the sources of the data, and to collect them and to work together. So I think that we have planned a climate action plan, and we are going forward with this new field that tourists are working. So I don't have the answer, but we are getting more closer.
It was not like a correct answer or not. It's the point of view do you have about, because I am the port authority here, and I work really hard for be more attractive for small cruises or cruises that are improve all the engineer stuff for me more sustainability. We get more than 200 cruises with LNG. There's less, it's more sustainability. Also, they have solar plant inside, waste management. We try to be the port authority, like example that the tourists that we want in our island. This one that they have their own water treatment, and is this kind of sector that be attractive for our locals, because they improve, like cruises line, improve a lot for this kind of project right now. And my question was your point of view that you are in the other side, not like in contact like us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're going to wrap up the session on time, although we started a bit late. And as the chair, now's the time for me to place the government commercials. Yeah, and I will put forward our definition of sustainability. We believe that travel is environmentally unsustainable, but it becomes a sustainable industry when the impact it generates on the local community and residents is higher than the environmental cost. Okay, it's a rough definition, but we're all focusing on high-value tourism. And high-value tourism is tourists that travel off-season. They go to places that are not crowded. They spend a bit more, and they have a more respectful and conscious behavior when they are there. And a lot of destinations are moving towards this direction, and we don't have the definition yet, but we're pretty chipping in and getting close on what we believe. I started mentioning 1998, 40 million tourists. 1984, Turespaña was founded, and our first international campaign was Spain, everything under the sun. We have managed to conduct the whole panel without talking about our global warming, which is unbelievable. Congrats to us. But look, we are in a turning point now, and it might be the slogan. The slogan might be Spain, everything but the sun, if global warming continues to accelerate at this rate. My point is we are in the middle of, I think, a pivotal moment. We're seeing the limits of growth in Spain. As I mentioned, we might exceed 90 million tourists this year. And I think this panel was a very, very interesting conversation on a lot of things. I took a lot of notes here. Sustainability is a journey. I love the definition of Christoph. The tourism industry is about the freedom to do what you like with your free time. I thought that was genius. We also, José Juan mentioned that the first thing that sustainability has to do is to generate wealth, and I agree. The first objective of the ODS, the Sustainable Development Objectives, is reduce poverty, right? So we never should lose focus on the economy. Sustainable has to be economically viable. Rachel mentioned convenience. People will behave sustainably if it's convenient and easy. We shouldn't lose track of that one as well. Data. We need more and more data standards. We need to act on actionable data, and I think that's a gap that we all have. And I think the white elephant in the room, walk the talk. How do we start doing instead of talking that much? And maybe that will be a suggestion for our next panel, concrete and specific actions on moving forward in big leaps and quick wins towards sustainability. So thank you very much to all the panelists and to the audience. I think it's been a great session, and we'll be around for lunch if you want to continue conversation with the panelists. Thank you.